boom, overnight, my life changed. When I started even to say hi, there was already a prejudgment inside my head.
Maybe we can avoid these conflicts.
I was so excited that I'm starting a new life that I was like, oh, I can face any challenges. Everything is gonna be all good.
Welcome to the Volunteer Support Podcast, brought to you by the European Union's co-funded project Promptus EDU, a collaboration between associations Audis Out Mori and Building Bridges.
Welcome to Volunteer Support Podcast, where we address common volunteer questions and concerns. Today we have a topic: navigating cultural differences and avoiding misunderstandings, living with someone else during volunteering. And we have Audis Out Mori team, Tadas.
Hello.
And me, Gabriele. And we have a special guest, Susit, that has participated in many youth exchanges and also traveled quite much and emigrated to 2 different continents, let's say. And say hi, Susit.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me, Tadas and Gabriela. I'm very happy to share my experience with you guys.
So, the topic of navigating cultural differences and avoiding misunderstandings was introduced during the meeting that we had with volunteers, because living with someone else can be a challenging experience, especially when you're living with someone from different cultural background. And even in a new place, it's not only about the cultural things, just different people has different perspectives, and that can be challenging. That's why we are recording this episode. So we can start to address the question that a lot of volunteers is asking: how will it be living with someone else in a different cultural context? So we can reflect on our own experience, what we had, and maybe, Suthith, you have some stories to share?
All right, thank you very much for the question. So I would like to give a little bit of background about who I am so that you guys would understand the context. So I'm originally from Sri Lanka, and when I was 19, I moved to Lithuania. Yeah, so when I moved there, I didn't live anywhere else before. I was always living with my family, and then boom, overnight, my life changed, and I started living in the dormitory in Vilnius. And there, of course, you have to share a room. And I knew that information before, but I was so excited that I'm starting a new life that I was like, oh, I can face any challenges. Everything is going to be all good. And when I go there, I see a man inside the room and everything was fine. I was like, oh, hello, how are you? And the biggest problem was communicating in English, because I'm used to communicating in my own native language. And now there is one big barrier, not barrier.
But
Like
barrier.
a filter.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, yeah, it was, let's say, a bit of a challenge. And not because I was not used to it. And since the moment I met him, there was some sort of difficulty, even with the interaction part, even with the communication part. So then, of course, I'm still young, no life experience, straight out of home, and started to live with him. And it was quite interesting, I would say, because everything that happened was a new experience for my life, in a sense that I'm growing up day by day, and this stranger, now at the beginning, of course, a stranger, but he got to also witness the growth of me, and he himself was an international student as well. So we both were pretty much, we had something in common, that we're both new to this place, so we figured out everything while going through life as it is.
Where your roommate came from?
My first roommate was from Iran. So there was also a little bit of doubt or misconception in my mind, because until I met him and I got to really talk to him and to understand what is Iran, the information that I got was from the Western media, right? Like BBC or the news, the main news. So Western media, and they always have a negative connotation about this country. So even though I didn't know this person, when I even say hi, there was already a prejudgment inside my head that was already implanted just because Iran is a bad country, blah, 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 blah. But of course, I was open minded. Although it was there, I wanted to get to know him as a person. And then he explained what is Iran and why this is happening. And then I was like, oh, I was wrong. Since the first moment that I came to this country, I started learning. And while it was challenging, there is also good things that you learn for yourself with experiences. And yeah, that was first one. Then I can't remember how many roommates I've had, but the main difficulty is that when you're gonna live with someone, there you need to understand you're two different people with two different backgrounds and two different ways of how you live your life. So maybe just a very simple example. In the morning, I like to do my bed. I want to put the bed and I want to keep it neat and tidy. And if someone doesn't do it, that's a trigger for me. But maybe for the other person, it's nothing like that. He just wants to leave the blanket as it is, doesn't need to fix it. It's completely normal for his life. And while the room looks messy, maybe for me it looks messy, but maybe for him it looks completely fine. These are also some things that I had to learn, that you need to respect the other person and how he lives, and you need to set these boundaries with yourself, like this is the way he is, and respect him for that, not to undermine him or try to change him, as long as it doesn't directly affect your life. So this is just one of many examples, but yeah, maybe you guys have something to add.
I feel like to live with the other, with the person having different views and values, it's not that much that we talk about. Okay, you choose your people that you want to spend time, that understands you. You want to be accepted. You maybe trying to accept the others. But if you're not, then usually you change the people around you. So usually we hear that, oh, you find your tribe or something. But sometimes it's inevitable that we are living with someone. Maybe that's your roommate. Maybe we start to live with the other person. Let's say you find a partner, and that partner is from the same country as you, and you still find these disagreements as you live for longer. When you start dating, you don't know these things. You start living together, little things start to bother. But the same culture, maybe the same area that you're living, it's somehow similar. And when there is completely different culture and there is in between the language barrier, I believe it can be frustrating because, as you say, boundaries are the key. I think open communication is also a key to navigating it smoother. And where there is a struggle to communicate, it can be difficult.
Yeah. So what is important, and Suthif, you said that to be open and to have that cultural sensitivity, that person is from different background, even though I have some information about that country, but I could just listen to that person and see how he is. And maybe just different information that I have, that person actually is living with. And for me, I had for half of the year roommate from Lebanon. So that's also close by compared to the European continent. And it was also like, I didn't know that much, but it was like, it was very interesting.
No, but I can add to this one. Now, with regards to volunteers and volunteering, when you go on volunteering projects, you don't get to pick the roommate. As far as I'm concerned, they just they allocate you with someone. Also a challenge because you don't know who you're going to stay with in your own personal space, because that person is also going to be part of your personal space. And we tend to, no matter how open-minded you are, everybody has a place that they call their own. While it's challenging for you, I think it also gives opportunity for you to learn what are your weaknesses. Why can't you adapt to this situation because of what things inside you? If you think about it, putting yourself in these kinds of situations makes you open your eyes and makes you see the world a bit more There was one, I can say, I was with a roommate. He was snoring so loud that it was impossible to go to sleep. And during this project, I cannot change. And how I cannot tell him to stop snoring because it's out of his control. But yet I need to sleep. So what I did was I plugged in my headphones, go to sleep, or I go sleep before he comes to bed because once I fall asleep, I don't wake up. So you just find ways. There was no like bad, he wasn't a bad person or something. He just snores really loud.
So that's
So,
a learning experience.
yes, even the difficulties that you face or the challenges that you face, at that point, maybe it might be tough to deal with it because, again, we all have our own bubbles that we are comfortable with. And if someone is poking in that bubble without us having control over, it puts us on edge. But the point is to go through it, learn from it, be patient, be open minded. And there's a lot you can get from that.
And what I hear from you that there are things that we cannot control, of course, right? Choosing, maybe not all the time we can choose the person that we live with. We cannot choose whether they are snoring or not, how tidy or not they are. In the morning, are like banging all of the dishes around, or maybe they're staying late and listening to the videos, or just like being loud there, whether they're going to be extroverts or introverts. So yeah, there are a lot of things that we cannot choose, but some things are in our control. I think when we meet different people, one of the things we can do is to communicate and communicate some ground rules. This is a question for all of us. What do we think? How crucial it is to set ground rules when sharing space with another human being?
I believe it's important to have some house rules, but it really depends. Like my experience when I mentioned a person from Lebanon was my roommate. The room was joined with another room, and there was Italian guy and then another person from Hong Kong and Canada. So there was lots of different backgrounds, but I didn't put any house rules actually. We didn't talk about that. All of the guys was more or less clean, and they were not making a huge mess, and it was not a problem for me actually. And just reflecting, I'm trying to think about something, but it was not a problem. So it can be like that.
I understand from one point. Maybe if the person is similar to you and have similar lifestyle as you, or maybe just not bothering you. But when we feel that it's triggering us, I think it's a good opportunity to invite to a conversation. And sometimes maybe just to prevent conflict, it's good to have some kind of rules. For example, when I came to Spain and I had 3 Spanish roommates that I didn't expect, I also had some prejudiceness because there were 3 guys. And I was like, okay, I'm going to clean everything. There was this thought in my head, but from the day, I think 2, I was introduced to a schedule when we are cleaning what and when, how are the things working there, where I can find the things. So I think from the very beginning, we avoided many misconceptions, and this open communication really helped. So I find these topics good to discuss about chores and responsibilities around the house, because in the beginning, if we are setting these rules and responsibilities, maybe we can avoid these conflicts around the house. So I think it's a good prevention for that. Also, when we're coming to Erasmus project, usually there are also quiet hours and noise levels. So they also put some kind of preventative mechanisms to help us to get our sleep, one of the most important needs of ours. Another thing that is good to discuss, personal space issues. Maybe I have a shelf in the refrigerator that I don't want to share my butter or salads or something else. Or maybe it's fine with you, but not to hold a grudge through that. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree that communication is key if you're living with someone. I personally would not like to put rules when you first meet someone or when you're starting out, because that can be interpreted by the other person in another way. Like, oh, this person thinks he's the boss or she's the boss. Why? What makes this person? Who is this? And even before, even though you mean it from a good place, it can come out in a negative way because of the first impression being bad. I would just say get together and talk. Just talk and be like, so what are the rules? Usually that's what I say. So I'm being honest and I'm telling guys, so I'm moving in here. Just let me know what are the rules that are if there is someone living there, of course. What do you normally do? And then we just come to a conversation where we talk about each other and how things should work. They will ask, how do you do things? And then, for example, I will take the same thing with the bed. I will say, yeah, I like to do my bed. And then usually the other person would ask, do you mind if mine, I don't do it most of the time. I'm like, it's fine. It's your bed. It's your thing. I'm completely fine with that. So we
Are you
just come to,
completely fine? Are you completely fine?
honestly, yes. It's his side of the bed. It's his room. It's his space. So as long, again, like you said, in your case, your flatmates didn't come invade your personal space. So as long as that is there, it's fine. So one of the things that I'm not saying I'm a perfect roommate or something like this, because I really like to watch movies till late, and I don't like to put headphones. I want
Oh,
to watch with the people.
we had the first episode probably, that we actually talked about headphones. The Spanish organization said that European Union should fund headphones for participants because there's a lot of complaints about the roommates that is just watching movies, listening to podcasts, or watching YouTube. And that is frustrating. So I have a question. As you like to watch without headphones, why is it like that? Are you hating headphones? Or how
Or you
come?
hating people around you?
Me personally, I don't like to sit down and watch stuff. I'm always on my bed. And if I put headphones and I turn to the side, so then the pressure from the pillow will hit the ear and it hurts. So I need to switch again. And it's just annoying. But for example, if my roommates are sleeping, I always just take the headphones and just lie down, sit back up on the bed. But most of the time, like even now, I bought a speaker, I close the door, and I just watch it on my laptop. So yeah, it just gives the feeling of being in the movies, but you're in the comfort of your bed with the smaller
Yeah.
screen, shittier music, shittier sounds, but it just makes more sense than the headphones.
Yeah, that's
So
understandable.
yeah, communication. I think no matter what each person has, or maybe some things don't work, usually you get conflicts when you, like, when I was living with my flatmates, the biggest problem we had was who is taking out the trash, who is cleaning the flat, when. And yeah, we tried to do it in the first few months. We had a schedule to do it, but at the same time, we all had jobs, we had our own lives. So sometimes maybe we couldn't do it during that specific day or during that week. We couldn't do that because of other priorities of our life. And instead of just waiting for that person to do it, someone should be the bigger person and do it. It didn't work. In our case, it didn't work. I just got everyone and we said, guys, we're all adults now. We all know how to live. We all know what it is. We need all want a clean place. If you see something dirty, just do it. And that somehow worked. I did most of the time, but still, I'm not going to live in a flat where it's dirty because the other person is not going to do it. And it doesn't really hinder your life that much. It will take maybe, it took me like 30 minutes to clean the flat. Or when I'm going to work, just take the trash out with you. It doesn't really bother you too much. And everyone started doing it by this thing. Yeah.
I also remember sometimes it's good to discuss about celebrations. Are you doing these celebrations? Do you invite each other or not? Or maybe the house is completely party free, that is only for studying or for sleeping and getting rest, and you are going out to celebrate or to party. So sometimes there can be some misunderstandings because of it. Another thing that is good to discuss is about the common area use. We had a situation when one of our roommates decided to invite his whole family to to live in the living room without consulting us. So it was like a little bit like shock. But then we discussed about like these things, how it's gonna be arranged. But it was like surprising. But so maybe it's good to discuss up front.
Yeah.
I believe we totally agree with it.
Okay.
I agree too. Communication, it's key.
And sometimes we are afraid to raise conflict or to have our ideas to counteract. And it's completely understandable that we don't want that. But sometimes it can grow into resentment, and then little things annoy us. And during long term, we just start to dislike the person as a whole, not just because of this small habit maybe they're having. And whenever I speak to my colleagues, I say, you cannot be mad at the person if you didn't see anything that is bothering you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's on you.
We had a coordinator from the Spain that shared experience with some volunteers that just in the end of the year of volunteering said something about those interaction between other roommate, flatmate that was very bothering them. And it's, what can I do about that? Okay, we will not change, but we can still communicate that for the rest of the month, let's say the last month, you will be able to live more comfortably. But it's not just about that. It's about the skill to be able to communicate in other time, because in that particular case, it was hard to do, and they were not able to do that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I want to ask this question for you, for all of us. We share some bits of where it was uncomfortable, but I think we can make it more straightforward. Maybe you can share an experience when you had significant disagreement with roommate or housemate due to different perspectives, and how did you handle the situation, and what common ground did you get into?
You need to delete this part. Give me 1 minute. I'm trying to think. Since I've lived with a lot of people, for sure, I have had a bit of situations where we ended up in disagreements rather than, maybe some went towards conflicts. But this one that comes to my mind was when I was doing my Erasmus in Portugal. I was living with a friend of mine and 3 others. It was like a 5-bedroom apartment. Yeah, so my friend, she does not like to do dishes. She cooks, but she doesn't like to do dishes. And I always, because she's my friend, I can tell, hey, do the dishes. And she wouldn't take an offense. Whereas if it was anyone else in the flat that I didn't really know, I cannot directly say something like this, hey, wash the dishes. It might come out as disrespectful. For about a few weeks, every time I would come from class or anytime I would go to cook something, there is always dishes in the sink, or there is a pot that I need that is not washed. And I'm always telling her. After about a week or two, she understood what type of pots and pans I use on a regular basis. And then some pots and pans, other than the main ones that I use that were in the flats, I couldn't find them. So I was like, okay, where could this be? Because it's not in the sink, it's not dirt, it's not there, it's not where we put it. And I was like, okay, maybe someone took it to the room. Sometimes it happens. You put your food, maybe you take it to your room and it doesn't come out. So it's fine. And I wanted to bake something that day. So I opened the oven and voila, all the dirty dishes are inside the oven. And at that point, I was shocked, and I immediately knew that it was my friend. So I just started laughing out really loud, and she came out of the room. She saw it, and she was so embarrassed about it. And I said, "What the fuck is this?" Like, you could hide it anywhere, but why in the open? And yeah, it was then after that day I said, listen, I will clean your dishes. Just don't hide your dirty dishes in the oven. And since that day, she also knew that, okay, this is wrong. It's hindering other people's lives. And of course, it didn't happen overnight, but within a week, everything was settled and dishes were getting fixed and so on. But yeah, this was, let's say, one of the situations.
Did she learn to clean dishes, or was it like in the beginning of situation that you were just having a lot of dishes in the sink and you were cleaning all of them?
No, like first I started cleaning, but it became a habit where she was like, okay, I can leave it, but he will clean it. And I was like, no, this is not how it's going to work. So every time it's there, I'm like, come, clean the dishes, clean
Okay.
the dishes. So it just became annoying to her in a way that it was friendly. It was not in like a way like, yo, you need to go do it. Not like I'm mad, but it's more go and do this now, like in a very friendly and nice way. But still, she had to go do the dishes. I was like,
I believe
like a mother.
I believe she was hearing your voice when she was putting dishes in the sink and like, oh, go do the dishes. And she was like, maybe I should do it now.
Like consciousness, like Susa's voice.
So yeah, but again, back then we were young. We all learn from experiences with time. Now she lives by herself. She never has dirty dishes. So I think that's
Yeah, you don't need to learn this if your parents says like from, I don't know, 5 years old that you are doing your dishes like or 10 years old and you're just all the time doing dishes. And then
Yeah.
when you're going to the other place, you would be amazed. Oh, someone else is not doing that. As it was experience with the bed that you shared. It's clean. It's, oh, someone else is doing this. Like, it's
Yeah.
much easier to learn it in the childhood, but not all the things we are learning at that time.
Me, myself, I tried to remember the disagreements that we had. I felt like there was more, but in my head, I think bad memories kind of trying to fall off of my head. But
same for
one
me.
thing I do remember, I remember we lived three girls at the same room, but there was dormitory that we also were sharing with others, the shower and the toilet. And one of our roommates, she had to go every day to the shower, wash the head and everything. And the period that she's spending inside the bathroom would take forever. And she have to dry the hair inside there. So we have to wake up like super early to be able to get into the shower in the morning. And we tried to be very fit. So we went to jogging and so on. And we finished the jogging and she's still there. And also there was a lot of hairs. That's the thing when you live with the girls. Like, so that can be an issue.
People with long hair.
People with long hair. And so we had a discussion, but I think the problem that we had, that two girls, like we had this conversation with the third one. And I think she became very defensive because she was like alone. And or maybe she just like that. So if someone will interrogate you, you will become defensive. And so there was some silence after that, and she was avoiding us. But at the end, we discussed like the hours when who is going to take a shower. But our relationship didn't been that good. But she were avoiding us for longer, even before that. I don't remember it very good.
So in the end, you were not communicating that much with her, and
no, but we tried to invite her when we were going to travel, because we were exploring the cities around and so on. But
where she going with you?
oh no, yeah.
So it can be a challenge. It can be also just different relationship just because you were uncomfortable.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's hard how to learn to get this feedback from another person, not only like criticism. So I think like there was mistakes made from both sides.
And the feedback is important to not only take the feedback, but also give the feedback. It's also in some way, as you said, all of you went and talked with her, so it's not maybe like that to be
one-on-one.
such intimidated.
Though I feel it's better to talk like personally, than compared to go to, I don't know, headmaster and tell about her, or some kind of
Mhm.
dormitory person that's working there. I think it's better to go to speak directly, or not in front of some like other group, or
It's neighbors called police because of the noise for us, instead of coming and saying to us that
Yeah.
it's a noise. It was just a movie. It was not that loud. It's not a party, but police came.
Matrica.
Yeah, in the end of the Matrica movie, it's ended, and then the police is just ringing the doors. It was like interesting experience. About
This is Lithuania. I've also experienced the neighbors calling the police. But I was lucky that when I was living in a flat, the woman always comes, tells us, guys, shut up. We need to go to sleep or something like this. But she never called the police. So in that aspect, it's nice.
So it's
So
about the
yeah,
courage to go and talk with those people that is having some problems, like to talk with other people that is making the noise and is uncomfortable to you. But you have to talk with them, not like police, president of the country,
Third
or
party.
like
Yeah.
too high.
yeah. When it comes to these issues, I think it's very important to, when emotions are involved from both parties and you want to express it, it's very important to be delicate about it and to use the proper words, even how you're going to share. If it's frustration, how you're going to share it in a way that doesn't come as an offense, but it comes with respect towards the other person. But yeah, these things, I think you can learn these things. I personally learned this from trial and error, from experience. So I still probably don't know how to communicate everything to someone else without hurting their feelings. But I think we all have ups and downs. So just don't take it too personally. If something goes wrong, just move on with life. If it goes in a negative direction, if it goes in a positive direction, then good.
So we talked about a lot of issues, the personal ones that we are having with some people living with us that can be from other countries. But do we have some stories to share with listeners that is about cultural differences because of the living in different country or having some different background?
Yes, I had one experience with one of the roommates that I was with. If I'm not mistaken, he was Egyptian and he was a Muslim. So he used to pray 5 times a day. I knew they pray 5 times a day, but for example, straight up when I came to the place, listen, I will pray 5 times like this. I hope you don't mind. And I was like, of course, it's not a problem. Go for it. And it didn't really bother me, but it was quite interesting how dedicated he was. And also, even though I didn't know about the religion or the culture, he was, every time he did it, we always had a chit chat, and I got to experience an authentic part of his culture through this specific experience. So, yeah.
That's really nice that you shared. So I feel like maybe we could have an opportunity to share what kind of positive aspects have we experienced as we live with a person from another culture, from another country, or even continent.
I could share the experience that I was living half of the year in Czech Republic with a person from Lebanon in the room, and that room was joined by a bathroom, as I said before. So what we do, we are making meals from our country. It's not particular from our country, but what we like to make and share with other people. So Italian guy for sure made pasta, but it was interesting. Lebanon, I can't remember, but it was very tasty. He was making very tasty food with the spices and everything. Some Turkish girls was making the meals, and it was very interesting and tasty experience. So that's a positive for sure.
Aww.
So, yeah, I think I've lived with over 20 different nationalities, maybe more. I'm actually not sure. But one of the really good things that I like, and it's now part of my life at this point, is also that I don't like to stay with my kind of people, if that makes sense. I always want to be in an international environment or with an international group of people. So I will explain with the things with the people that I was with. They have a new perspective of life. They see the world in a different view than mine, and that is quite interesting. And at the same time, they share their culture with you and they talk about certain topics, certain things, and at the same time, food as well. Like, I love Turkish food. It's one of my favorite right now, but I loved Lithuanian food as well. I love food in general, but it's always nice to experience something that is different from what you're used to. And I remember when I first tried shalti barshay, I did not like it. And because it was foreign to me, what is a cold soup? If the listeners are thinking what shalti barshay is, it's a cold beetroot soup.
Or
Pink soup, exactly. First, when I tried it, I didn't like it. But then I tried it again and again, and I'm like, oh, this is really delicious. And the last day before I left Lithuania, that was my lunch as well. I think food is a way that you can experience the real, authentic culture or the country for itself. So whenever if I eat shalti barshay, I feel like okay, I'm experiencing Lithuania. Same for pasta for Italy, same for baklava for Turkey. So it just you can feel a little bit of that country through food. So yeah, this is one of the best things that happened when I lived with so many different people, and the food, the experiences, the views they have about certain topics, normal like day-to-day topics and also some controversial topics as well. And if you're open to listen and if you're open to hear what they have to say, it also makes you a better human being as well, to understand other people more. You become more empathetic, and yeah, you get to see the world through others.
you get to understand like more complexity of the world, that it's not only good people and bad people, good countries, bad
Yeah.
countries. When I lived with my Spanish roommates, we had intercultural evening. There was only Spanish and Lithuanian culture. I made shalti barshi for them, and I had in mind that maybe they will not like it because I had some experiences when I was in another youth exchange. There was French participants who completely disliked the shalti barshi and said, "Oh, but this is pink. Why it's not sweet or anything? What is this taste?" So I was prepared, so they wouldn't like it or something, but they liked so much. And we also shared a lot of things, how we celebrate different celebrations and this kind of intercultural experience. And how do we feel about our countries, like our history and our present. So it was like also a different view, because from Lithuania, I see Spanish in a certain way. Spanish sees us in a certain way. Okay, this is teeny tiny country near the Baltic Sea. There is a similar called country Latvia. So are you guys the same? No, you're not the same. So you get to learn more. But what I really liked, that we had these cozy evenings together. A whole day we are out, we are doing something else. But during the dinner time, we come together and we usually share the meal. We are making for ourselves, not for everyone, but we are sharing about our day. Maybe that's my experience and my flat uniqueness, that we share a lot of our feelings during the day, what we felt, what happened to us, and there was some reflection happening during this evening. And sometimes we get so philosophical. One of my roommate was a philosophy bachelor, so naturally, so I'm like, oh, okay, what is philosophy? What are you doing there? Another was a football coach, so it's like completely different world. Me, I was working in a lab, so like
biochemist.
Yes.
Biotechnology.
Yeah, another person was mechanic, so it's like all of us were completely different, and we come together to have like nice meal dinner, and we share about our little world, and it becomes like a part of shared space that we live.
I totally agree about the conversations. I also remember,
Yeah.
not in the details, but it was very interesting, like to talk about the Lebanon, about the Hong Kong, with American guy, people with different experience, because I was for 2 summers in United States with work and travel.
Oh,
Oh, there it's also interesting, just like everyday experience, like how United States health insurance works. Like, as such, it's a pain to not be able to fix your teeth, that ache that you have for a month. Like, I didn't have this experience in Lithuania. It's covered, easy and accessible.
you appreciate more
Yeah,
what you have.
yes,
Yeah.
for sure. Even though in Lithuania a lot of people are having complaints, but United States is, oh, it's like a dream. But there's lots of shitty things in different countries, I would say.
I agree. I agree. Completely agree. Yeah. But yeah, just to wrap up on this question, I would say that at least my humble opinion is that it doesn't matter at the end of the day which country you're from, which background you're from. At the end of the day, I'm a human being, you're a human being. And if we can put beside all the prejudice, all the religion, or all these problems that we have at this point in the world, this status with the money and so on, and hierarchy, and so all of these things, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're a human being, I'm a human being, and at the end of our lifetime, we're all going to be 6 feet under. So,
Or
yeah,
burned.
it's exactly over.
Depends on your
So,
culture and
yeah, I mean, just enjoy it. Enjoy the time. Enjoy the experience you get with these people because a lot of people don't get that.
Maybe we should share one more thing with our listeners, the tip that we have, or like in general, another thing maybe that we want to share. Final thoughts.
Yeah. So, what I can give, it will be very simple tip. Don't be too hard on yourself and take life a little bit more easier. That's what I can tell to everyone.
Short and clear.
I feel like you really live up to this advice. For me, I would say that similar as I would say in like any other episode, that yeah, communication is the key, and find the perspectives from where we can talk and find this common ground. I think it's all possible. And if it's not possible, maybe we can find a way to be together and not cross each other's boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What I would share is that in any situation that you're dealing with people, in this case, living with some people, I would recommend to just think, to have a thought that another person or those people that you have some conflicts or you don't like to communicate or something else, that they want to be happy. You want to be happy, they want to be happy, you are just dealing with your own struggles and life, and just to have that compassion. And then it will be much easier.
Well said. Said I like it.
Thank you, listeners, for listening to this episode. Please share your thoughts about this episode or any questions that you have on Spotify. And keep listening to our podcast. And see you in other episodes. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.